So them that love him, all things work together for good to them that love him. You know, there's a funny thing about love. And if anyone's ever been in love, you know this to be true, that love makes you act in a certain way. I would even go as far as to say a crazy way. For, you know, and we have to clarify that, you know, sometimes what the world defines as love is really lust. You know, you want someone, and so you're willing to do whatever it takes to get them. And then when you got the person, then you stop doing what you used to do to get them, because now you got them, so you got what you want, so you don't have to do it anymore. Can I get an amen? Amen. All right. Amen. But love is enduring. And love will cause a woman who can't stand sports to sit down and watch Sunday night football with her husband, even though she has absolutely no idea what's going on and she can't stand it. But it'll cause her. Why? Because it's important to her husband. And so she'll do it. Why? Because her husband is important to her. See, love caused you to do some crazy things. Love caused you to do things that you couldn't even imagine yourself doing. But the thing about, and the difference between lust and love is that even when you've benefited from the relationship, even when you've received something, the love doesn't stop. In other words, you continue to do. You continue to do those actions. You continue to do the things that you know this other person appreciates. Why? Because you love them. And your action, your motivation for doing these things wasn't because you wanted something. I guarantee you, and I'm studying psychology and counseling, and one of the things that I've learned in studying, you can learn a lot just by watching and listening to people. And learning about relationships and talking to different people. And one of the reasons, and this is my anecdotal study, so don't quote me on this, but from what I've seen, it's most of the reason that a lot of marriages end is because people went into it for the wrong reasons. They went into it because they wanted something. They were tired of being alone. They didn't like waking up, you know, and having an empty bed next to them anymore. Or, you know, all their friends were getting married and they felt like, you know, they had their mother saying, "What's wrong with you? How come you can't find anybody?" Not that I'm talking from personal experience. But there's a desire, or they want something. They feel this physical need for something, for someone. And so they think, well, if I get married, then it's okay because then I'll have someone with me all the time. But see, the problem is once you've done what it is to attract that person and the honeymoon is over, then comes a time when you have to, now you're waking up with someone, but they've got stank breath in the morning. All you want to do is push them away. And you stop doing those things. Why? Because you wanted something and now you got what you wanted. So now there's no motivation, no more desire to do those things. But see, with love, it's a different story. Because when you love, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. When we love someone, it has absolutely nothing to do. We do what's best for the other person, regardless of the effects that it has on us. Regardless of what it means for us. Regardless of what it might cost us. Or regardless how we may or may not benefit. We do what is required because because when we love someone, you esteem that person more than yourself. You know, when you love someone, you're patient with them. Even though sometimes they get on your nerves and you repeat the same thing 3 times. How many times do I have to tell you not to leave the toilet seat up? But you keep telling But you have patience with them anyway. It does. In fact, Proverbs says that love covers all sin. For love is patient. And what greater example of love that we have than Jesus Christ, who covered every one of our sin by making himself the greatest sacrifice. But what he requires of us is that same thing. Not just to come to the kingdom to get what we want. Not just to come to him and to receive something. Because if you come to the Lord just because you want something, then you get what you want, then you're gone. Where's your motivation? Where's your desire to stay? Because, church, I'm telling you, if no one has told you already, let me tell you, the road is rough. The road is rough and it entails suffering. If you walk with Christ, you have to deny yourself first. You know, church, sometimes we can't even get to the denial part. Because see, once you deny yourself, then you got to pick up your cross and you got to walk with the cross. And the cross is heavy. The cross is hard. It's a weight to carry. And sometimes, you know, you're buckled under the the weight of the cross. But sometimes we can't even get to the carrying of the cross part. Because we're so denial. Yeah, we still haven't left the denial part. We say, listen, I'll just give this up. You know, I'll just throw away the drink and I'll throw away the smoking, but we struggle with just the denial. Just the denial. But the Lord says that if you love Him, you'll obey His commandments. Not in part. Not just enough to get what you want. Not just enough to offer up that sacrifice and say that you've offered and say that you've given Him what He desires. But He requires everything. Everything. See, it's not just about the sacrifice. What Israel lost sight of, we talked about it this morning, what they lost sight of was the purpose for the sacrifice. See, Israel had gotten so good about obeying the letter of the law. They got it down to a T, which is why these Pharisees were so stuck up on themselves when they saw Jesus walking with these Pharisees, these publicans and sinners. And you say, listen, don't you know who we are? Well, we're the called out ones. We're Israel. You can't be messing around with sinners and publicans. And do you know who they are? Do you know who that man is? Let me give you the 411 on who that person is. And start to look at Jesus and say, how can this man call himself a Jew? How can he call himself one who praises and mix with such the lowest of the low? But you see, what Israel lost sight of was the whole purpose of the sacrifice. See, the purpose of giving the sacrifice was for an atonement of sin.
Go ahead.
And when you talk about atonement, it's not just about paying a price. It's not just about saying, okay, listen, I've done this wrong, so here's my penance. You know, I've said my 5 Hail Marys, my 2 Our Fathers, and I've prayed the rosary how many times, so I'm good until I sin next time.
Don't forget the money.
Don't forget the money too. It's not just about an exact, like I did a wrong, so I've got to pay for my wrong. It's not just about an exacting, a tit for tat. But the whole purpose of the atonement was for reconciliation. Was to bring the people close to Him. For see, He desired a sacrifice because there was some price that needed to be paid. Why? Because there was wrongdoing, Sister Jardine, that was done. There was sin that was in the camp. There was wrong that they had done. But see, the Lord can't dwell with a sinful people. So the whole purpose of the reconciliation or the atonement was to say, listen, you've done wrong, but I want you so much. I desire you so much. And here, I'm going to give you a way of escape. I'm going to give you a way of escape that even though you've done wrong, even though justice says you should be annihilated and should be completely done with, that I'm going to make a way of escape so that you can come and you can be close to me. So that I can take you back to that wilderness and I can remove the names of those idols out of your mouth and hear you speak my name in love. They missed the purpose of the sacrifice. And so they continued to offer up the sacrifice, but there was no love in it. They were doing it just because the Lord said so. And just because they wanted something. For see, as long as Israel was obedient, the Lord was on their side. As long as they submitted themselves to the Lord, then He would fight for them. And so there was a benefit in that. But even when we come to Hosea chapter 6, there was an attitude that had developed in the mind of Israel. They said, okay, well, we've done wrong, so let's just offer up some sacrifices and we'll make everything right. Let's just slay a couple bullocks and lambs on the altar and we'll atone for the altar and we'll be good, we'll be in right standing. And it's to that the Lord is saying, what am I going to do with you? What am I going to do with you? You who are supposed to be fruitful, you've missed the point. The point wasn't just to offer up blood, because the blood of the goats didn't do anything. It wasn't the blood of the goats, but it was in their obedience. But He said, listen, you know what? I'm so sick of your sacrifices. Now, you know what? Keep them. I don't even want them. This is what you used to do because it was pleasing to me, but it's become so abhorrent to me because you miss the point. The point is, I want you. I want you to come to me. I want you to surrender yourself and come to me wholeheartedly because you love me. Because you desire me. But He said, because you missed the point, I'm going to cut you down with my words. In fact, I set my prophets, I'm reading in the New Living Translation, I'm going to cut you down. I've set my prophets to cut you to pieces, to slaughter you with my words, with my judgments as inescapable as light. Why? Because I want you to show love, not offer sacrifices. I want you to know me. I want you to know me. I want you to know me more than I want your burnt offerings. See, in offering the burnt offerings, they were being obedient. They were doing what the Lord prescribed. But they weren't doing it because they knew him. They were doing it because this is what they've been told. That this is what you do. You know, you're Israel, you're praised. That this is what you do. And so they were doing it out of a sense of obligation. But not because they knew him. Where is the intimacy? There's no intimacy in that. For if you're doing something out of requirement, then when the requirement is fulfilled, then again, where is your motivation? Where is the love? Where is that desire? Church, too often we do things out of requirement, out of obligation, out of the sense of, well, you know, it's Sunday, so it's time to go to church and time to come and, you know, it's song service, and now it's time to give praise, or pastor's jumping down, up and down like a cheerleader, so time to clap my hands, and, okay, well, you know, it's time for prayer, so it's time for me to offer my prayer to the Lord, and, oh, well, it's 2 weeks of prayer and fasting, so now it's time to fast, and now's the time to pray, and too often we do things out of requirement. But the Lord is saying to us the same thing that he was saying to Israel. He's saying, I don't want that. I don't want that. For the whole purpose of my coming, my whole purpose of the sacrifice that I made was so that you can come close to me. So that you can know me. So that you can be intimate with me. So that you can get to know what it is that I desire. And so you can be like me. But you see, in all that Israel had done, they were killing and they were destroying the people. But yet their purpose wasn't to destroy, but they were meant to be there. These priests were meant to be intermediaries. In other words, they were meant to help draw the people to their God. They were there meant to give sacrifice on behalf of the people. But because they lost sight of the whole purpose of the system of sacrifices, because they did not know this God, they left behind their purpose. And these very people who were supposed to be saving the lives of others came to destroy. They killed. They committed lewdness. And they murdered the people. And practiced every kind of sin. There is a responsibility for us in the church to know the Lord. And it's not to say that he doesn't want the sacrifice. It's not to say that he doesn't, for the sacrifice today is not rams and goats, but it's ourselves. For he wants us to give the same thing that he gave, which is everything. Because when you truly love, giving everything is nothing. When you truly love somebody, giving your all is your reasonable service. When you truly love, abandoning all that you are and all that you have and all that you hold dear means absolutely nothing. Why? Because you realize that there's something greater. You realize there's something more, and especially when you give your all to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, you trust that he's going to take care of that treasure and to use it for his use, for his glory. For you see, God so loved that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him would not perish but have everlasting life. And that everlasting life didn't just mean to live for eternity, but it meant to be with him.